Okay, so we are now live streaming. So good afternoon. Thank you, those of you who have been waiting for me. And now we begin. Welcome. I guess some little thing, Murphy's Law is insisting on doing something every Friday afternoon, but we're going to beat him. We're going to beat him. So let me quickly share my screen and let's get going. All right. Okay. So welcome to Live Before You Die. It's the Friday Night Live session 3, a mini series of life mastery tips. And I am Reverend Dr. Hazel Ann Gibbs DePisa, teacher, educator, coach, life mastery consultant. And I welcome you to this, our third session of Live Before You Die. And our topic this evening is change the way you look at things. And of course, that applies to us this evening. Though we have to change the way we look at it, it's not a disaster, it's just another learning step. And so, you would know that this mini-series is designed to empower you to live more abundantly. And that is because John 10:10 tells us, I am come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. And since abundant life is open to us, I think we should make use of it. So that I have set out to help persons to access the abundant life that is there for us, to bring you that awareness that will help you to access the abundant life that is just there waiting. We have looked at the life cycle of the butterfly and of the plant. And today we have an example of the life cycle of the fish. It begins as an egg and it goes to an embryo and then to a larva, but it doesn't stay there. It knows that there is much more to life, and therefore it goes on to become a fry, to become a fingerling, and finally an adult fish where it can experience all the abundance of living that is available to it. And so, just like the fish, we want to access the abundant life that is available to us. So let's recap before we go on to topic 3. In session 1, we looked at everyone dies, but not everyone lives. And you will recall that life is for living. So don't spend your life dying to wonder when dying and have regrets crying, why wasn't I living when I had life? And we know that many people tiptoe through life, hoping anxiously to make it safely to death. When you do that, you are not living, you are dying. And we want you to live before you die. And in the second session, we dealt with, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Yes, you have value. You were made for a purpose. No matter what your circumstances may be, understand that you have value. No matter what anybody may have told you, you have value. You were made for a purpose. Michael Beckwith puts it this way: there is an innate beauty, an innate abundance within you that is your very life and being. It is a gift of the Spirit of grace. So if you already have beauty within you, and you already have abundance within you, and you have the grace to see it through, then why allow abundant living to waste? Let's make the most of it. Remember, you are a spiritual being currently having a physical experience. That's one of the nuggets we had from the last session. Okay, so there is more to you than meets the eye. And remember also, you always have freedom of choice. Sometimes we like to think that we don't have freedom of choice, but no, that's not true. We always have freedom of choice. So as you recognize that, let's move on now to today's topic. Change the way you see things, and the things you see will change. Change the way you see things, and the things you see will change. And that was one of Wayne Dyer's favorite statements. And he used it a lot, framed a lot of his work around that, because that makes all the difference in life, you see. And I remember when I first was introduced to this in my courses that I was doing, I was so excited when I learned about changing the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And I was saying to a very close friend of mine, you know, when you change the way you see things, the things you see will change. And he looked at me and he said, what nonsense are you speaking? I'm looking at a chair. I think I'm seeing a table, but no, it's still a chair. Of course, that flattened me. I tried to argue a little bit, didn't get too far, so I ended up giving up on the discussion. But I am here to convince you today that if you change the way you see things, the things you see will change. So we start off life being taught about our five senses. And we know them because we had to learn them from small. Hearing, sight, taste, touch, smell. We had to learn them. Eyes, ears, nose, mouth, hands. Yes. But those are five physical senses. Those provide equipment to understand the physical world. And of course, we live in a physical world, so we must have physical equipment. But we are not only physical. That is the important thing. And I'm sure that you can relate to having heard or even having spoken of your sixth sense. You know, we talk about that. I know this was going to be, something tell me that that is what it is. And I ignored it, and look at this happening now. Yes, sixth sense, because there is more to you than meets the eye. We are not just physical beings. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so we have other faculties other than the five physical senses. Now, we're not taught this in school, but here it is. We have what are called 6 mental faculties. And they are called mental faculties because it is the mind that works with them for us, because the mind is what will connect the spiritual to the physical. So we use the physical brain and we have our physical senses, but it is through that same physical brain that the mind is going to make the connection from the spiritual. So we have imagination. And I'm sure you have all used your imagination. When you were small, you used it a lot. Perhaps you don't use it as much now, and you should go back to using it so that you can imagine things that are not even present. Intuition. That's that sixth sense that we talk about. You know, that little voice, small, soft voice that tells us this is what it is or this is what it isn't. And very often we ignore it because we have not been trained to accept our intuition and to know that that is connection from the divine. That's when God is whispering things to us. But we very often just dismiss it as some kind of thought. No, it's not our kind of thought. It is divine information that is coming through. And then we have memory. And of course, we know that we remember things, but memory is much wider than we think it is, because memory is not only in the brain, it's also in all parts of the body. That is a whole other story. And then there's will, and that's where we get the power to keep going, to do what has to be done. And there's reason, and reason functions at two levels. So we have reason on the physical human level, and we also have reason at the higher spiritual level. And finally, we look at perception, and that's where we're going this evening. Perception, that mental faculty that determines your reality. Perception is all about how you see things. So let's look at this picture. And I know that some people will look at it and see a white vase on the page. And some other people will look at it and see two black faces on the sides. So which is it? If you see the vase, it's a vase. If you see two faces, it is two faces. And if you see both of them, it is both of them. Your perception determines what it is for you. Let's look at this other one. And I'm sure you would immediately see this lovely porcelain vase with all the gold trimmings, etc. But if you look again, you will see two faces as well. So is it a vase or is it two faces? Or is it both of them? And if you can't see the two faces, then for you, it's only a vase. Or if you can't see the vase and all you can see are the two faces, then for you, it's only two faces. Your perception is your reality. That's what it is. Let's look at this other one. Here we have a tray of beans or nuts. And if we look, we will see that the beans are all colors, all stages, all shades of color, all sizes. But it's just a tray of beans. But if I tell you that there's a human head in the midst of these beans, so let's look and see. And if we look carefully, here we are, a human head, complete with forehead and nose and eyes and mouth and cheeks. Yes, a human head in the midst of the beans. Now, it's how you perceive the thing. You could have looked at it and not seen it at all. But if you change the way you look at it, you see other things that you didn't see before. Let's do just one more. So how many people see a lovely young debutante stepping out in her furs with her lovely choker around her neck and her hat and her feather, and she's giving us a beautiful side view. But do you see the old woman? The old woman with her wizened old face and her bent nose and her long chin and her eyes that tell a story of experience. And for her, she's wrapped in this fur, trying to keep warm. Now, if you saw the young, beautiful woman, that's what you see. And that's what it is. And if you saw the old woman with all her experience and all her wisdom showing in her face, then that's what it is. But you realize that if you look close enough, you can see both of them in the picture. It's all your perception. Your perception is your reality. So there are facts, and then there is truth. So what am I talking about, this perception being reality? If you see a block, you can perceive it as a building block or as a stumbling block. Whichever one you perceive it to be, that is what it will be for you. If we look at the picture, we see these torrents of water coming down. And the man is looking at it, and yes, it's dangerous, and yes, it's heavy, and who would dare to go there? But remember, Henry Ford told us, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. The young man sees the water and sees the opportunity to ride that wave of water coming down. So for him, it is a beautiful experience of riding the wave. And that's his truth. He could have stayed back and looked at it and be afraid and say, I'm not going near it. But his truth is that it is a wave that he can ride. You know, there's the news clip that went a few years ago when there was a fire, a forest fire that went through part of Texas, I think it was. And a number of houses were burnt. And the news crew came along, and there were two families that were near to each other because their houses were near to each other. And they approached the first family. And the mother's response was, I lose everything. It's like if life is over. And she was there crying and wailing, holding on to her family, but crying and wailing that she had lost everything and life is over. They moved to the other family. And when they approached the mother, she said, so they said, how are you dealing with all this loss? Have you lost everything? She said, I lost all my worldly belongings, but I haven't lost everything. I am thankful that my children, my husband, and I are still alive. We came out alive. We have life, and I'm grateful for that. I can always build back a house and buy back the things that were in it. So yes, I'm upset, I'm hurt that I have a loss, but it's not the end of my world. Same facts. The house is burnt with everything in it. But what is the truth? What is the reality? The reality for one family is that they have lost everything. And for all you know, they may go into a state of depression. They may get very ill. They may end up in hospital. And they may find it very hard to make the next step. To the other family, their truth is, we are alive. And for that, we are grateful. And with that positive thought, we can rebuild. Their perception is their reality. They would be able quickly to make the next step. They will not go into depression and not end up in hospital and not perhaps even lose their sanity because of their perception. Your perception is your reality. It is not what happens that counts. It is how you respond to it that matters. How you respond to it. That is what matters. And that is where you change the way you look at things. And the things you look at change. Because in one instance, it's a total disaster. In the other instance, yes, it is a disaster, but it is not a total disaster because I have life. And where there's life, there's hope. And therefore, I'm still open to abundance. Yes, because as long as we're alive and we are aware, and that's the important thing, that we are aware that we are much more than what meets the eye, that we are capable of much more than we think. And when we understand that, when we get that awareness, it gives us the opportunity to access and accept the abundance that is there waiting for us. And so this mini series, these sessions are intended to awaken in you an awareness that there is more to life than what you see, that you have value, that there is a power within you, that you are a spiritual being. And because you are a spiritual being connected to the infinite spirit, it means that there is a whole world of possibility before you. And you can indeed have an abundant life. So I hope that you have learned something this evening. And next week, I look forward to seeing you again when we will go on to the law of attraction, which says where attention goes, energy flows. So we're going to be moving in a little further into that spiritual realm, that realm of thought, that realm of energy and vibration. We're going to be delving into that when we meet for session 4. I thank you for your time and your attention, and I urge you to live before you die. The Friday Night Lime continues next week, same day, same time, and we hope we will have no glitches next Friday. And your comments will be appreciated. You may email me at lifemasterycoachtt@gmail.com. Yes, friends, so here we are. We've made it through another Friday, and we are grateful that we were able so to do. So perhaps this Friday, I may allow your 1 or 2 persons to just say a word before we close.
I can get it down with declaration. Say a word.
Yes, you
may. Die.
Yes, you're going to live before you die.
Yes.
Definitely.
And live in abundance.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. The message is going home.
Wonderful session, wonderful session.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, folks. And so we've come to the end of today. And
Before we come to
yes,
the end,
yes, my dear.
yes, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I really think that we have just come out of a $1 million course. I really think so. Why? For me, I have heard so much, I've read it in the scriptures that we have received abundant life from God through Jesus Christ. But I have never looked at it in the way it was put over this evening. This is like bringing it from that spiritual way into reality for me.
Okay.
And because I was able to see it this way, where it comes to life, I feel so blessed to be a part of this evening. And I really want to give thanks. I don't think that anything happens by chance. And it couldn't be by chance that I was here this evening. First time I'm really joining the group on a Friday evening. I missed out the first two. And I tell you, I am eager to see what is going to happen next.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And of course, you can always go onto the YouTube channel and you will see the first two that were done. They are on the YouTube channel available to you.
Thank you much.
So once again, thank you all and God bless you. See you next Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.